welcome to another up close video. Today's one is for Tonic Stamp Club number 12, which is called the Christmas Rose. And I'm sure I say this like every single month with the stamp clubs, but I really love this one as well. The words in particular, I'm really fond of. The way that you have got the actual like die cut word plus the little skinny bubble to go around it, but you also have some dies to cut out some of the stamped words as well. Not quite all of them, but a decent number of them you can actually cut out the actual stamped words as well, and I think it looks really lovely, especially when you've like coloured the main image and you just want the sentiment to go in front of it, but maybe you're getting fed up of cutting it into a little rectangle, or because of this CRaFTi font, when you cut it into a rectangle you kind of have a lot of white space or black space depending on, you know, how you sort of stamp them, around these areas where there's no like ascending and descending parts of the words, and it kind of gets a little bit annoying that, you know, you've got that much white space. But having these dies that coordinate really gives a lovely look to them. And also there's some sentiments in here. I know it's a Christmas set, but obviously happy can be used anytime. There's also happiness and joy. There's sending warm wishes. There's happy merry everything, which doesn't have to be Christmas, and may your heart be full of peace and joy. So there are quite a few sentiments in here that don't have to be Christmas as well. Obviously, you know, using them with the Christmas rose, you could colour the rose differently and turn it into another kind of looking flower, or maybe like a fantasy sort of flower as well, and have the other sentiments on there, and then it's completely not Christmas. And also like these two here also make it not Christmas as well. So I think it's a really nice versatile set, perfect for some extra Christmas cards, but also an all year round kind of set as well. And I've also done an art journaling page as well. I didn't film it this month, I know I filmed the video last month. Do let me know below if you really enjoyed that video, and I'll try to do more of them, because I do love any excuse to actually get a chance to do some art journaling, so it would be nice to force myself to film some videos doing it. But I have done another one showing how to use these sort of within an art journal page. I have actually combined it with one of the previous stamp clubs. It's the one that they brought back last month, so it's the backgrounds and borders one. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. I think it might have been like number 5 perhaps. I'll put it up here exactly what number it was. But I've used some of the letters from the words that were in that die set that coordinated as well on my journal page, but I will show you that later. So let's have a proper look at this month's stamp club. We will go with the stamps first, considering it is a stamp club. And the one that sort of stands out at you is the beautiful Christmas rose, or I think it's also called a helleborum, I think. But really lovely design, and lovely balanced design as well. They've actually put 5 flowers and 2 buds, so it's a really nice balance between the flowers. You don't feel like you need to add anything extra to it, which is also really lovely. But if you did want to add more to it, or maybe you wanted to stretch the design to be more of a DL card, or maybe you wanted to just stretch it a little bit so that it would work more all the way up the side of a 5x7 card or something, you do also have 2 extra flower heads as well, which would be perfect for that. But you can also use them to create a wreath as well. So I've actually used some of these with some of the holly dies that are in the die set to turn it into a wreath too, which is really lovely that you've got the separate flowers to be able to do that really quick and easily. Obviously you could cut some of these flowers out as well if you wanted to make a complete wreath out of the Christmas rose and you wanted more flowers in different directions. You could just fussy cut right up to the black lines and cut these out as well. So you've got plenty of options, which is nice. And I will go through the dies that coordinate in a second as well. But this is like the main focal image, which is so stunning. I've coloured it with alcohol pens. I have just heat embossed the outline, just stamped it in black. I've also been using the new Nuvo coloured pencils as well. I've done one example not made into a card that's just using the coloured pencils, and then the other ones are combining the alcohol pens with the coloured pencils to add some like extra depth to the flowers and the leaves and stuff. Then the next stamp is this beautiful sort of palm leaf, I think, or it could be a tropical leaf, any kind of beautiful, gorgeous, just like accent stamp really, but I love using this to create backgrounds. So there's a couple of examples using it on a background, multiple different colours layered on top of each other, some heat embossing, that kind of thing. You've also got this beautiful distressed one. I didn't actually use this one in the end, but you can create that gorgeous like aged distressed kind of look. I mean, this in sort of gold heat embossing for a vintagey card with brown sort of tones, maybe even this stamped in brown and like distress ink and pull the colour in using a water brush, giving it a really vintagey kind of feel, maybe using some of these scripty sentiments just sort of in parts in the background to give that sort of vintage script kind of look, and even combining this with last month's Stamp Club with those like coffee ring style sort of stamps, and also the scripty one that was in there as well. I think that would look really lovely. And then the other sort of extra stamp is also this gorgeous little splatter one. And you know I love splattering on my cards, so having a little splattery stamp, obviously it means you're more controlled where you add your splatter, and I suppose you can do it in different things than you might usually only be able to splatter with. You know, you've got like different ink pads and stuff that you could stamp it in, or clear ink and then heat embossing on top of it, which is also brilliant. Then all the sentiments that we have in here are happy, merry, everything, which I love, peace, sending warm wishes. You've got extra little ones that can combine with other ones that say from our home to yours and to you and yours. You've got happy holidays, this holiday season, may your heart be full of peace and joy, happiness and joy, Merry Christmas, and then down here you've also got sending and then your way. So you can do sending happiness and joy your way, for example, as sort of mixing and matching them. So I really, really love this stamp set, and I will now show you which of the stamps have a coordinating die to go with them as well. So sometimes we get a die set that is kind of more like a standalone die, and not many of them coordinate with the stamps. But this month, because we have these gorgeous images and these lovely scripty words, we've actually got dies that coordinate nicely, and they've done the lovely thing again where you can actually line the die up and still see the entire image. So you can do it whichever way you prefer, whether you die cut it first and then stamp it, or stamp it and then die cut it. Either way is really, really simple when you have a die like this. It means you can spend like hours colouring it if you want to, and know that you're going to get it cut out perfectly, and you're not going to get it like off centre or anything. You can actually perfectly line it up, which is always lovely. So that is the main flower image. Then we also have the two individual Christmas roses as well. And then we also have multiple words. We've got 5 different dies to cut out some of the words. So you've got Merry Christmas, and I cut this one out. It looks beautiful. We also have the little word peace as well. We have the sending warm wishes. We have the happy holidays. And then finally we also have the happiness and joy. I use the happiness and joy on my art journal page, and it looks really lovely cut out with the die like that. So there's only 3 of the scripty sentiments that don't have a die to go with them, which is the may your heart be full of peace and joy, but this one looks really lovely with a scribbly box drawn around it, which I've done on one of my cards. You've got this holiday season and happy, merry, everything that don't have a die to go with them, but you've got a really nice opportunity to cut them out and add them on top of your card as well. And the great thing about actually die cutting them like that is I know they're quite tiny, but you can add 3D foam to them as well. So if you want your sentiment to be slightly more pronounced on the card, you can add 3D foam behind it when it's die cut out like this, which is really lovely. So that is all of the coordinating dies with those stamps, and then these are the ones that we have left. So we have 2 holly leaves, different sizes, and slightly curving to different directions, so they work perfectly as a little pairing of 2 holly leaves. And you also get 3 berries in the different sizes. I love having berries in different sizes. Whenever I sort of add gems or Nuvo drops instead of die cutting berries or something, I do always try to put 3 different sizes, because I really love the look of that. So it's really nice that we've got the 3 individual little circle dies to cut the berries out. And then we have this beautiful frame which has got the outside edge, so you can just have it as like a matte layer on your card if you want to. You also have the inside edge, so these two together just make a nice matte layering pair or you could create just a skinny frame in gold or something to go around your card, or silver, or you could cut this as a mat in a metallic card and have this smaller one as like cut from white with all your stamping and stuff on, and this one fits nicely around the gorgeous Christmas rose as well. It frames it really, really nicely, so they've perfectly sized that together as well. But you also get an extra die that you can put in between those two to give you a dotted frame as well. So you could either just leave it with the dots, you could use the dots as a guide to put Nuvo drops on, however they will sink into the hole, so I recommend doing one round of Nuvo drops, letting it dry, and then go over the top again, and then they should be the nice little domes on the top of it. Or you could sew through this, you could do that card technique where you like bring the thread across the card and try and make a design with it as well. You could do that kind of thing. Or you can actually just cut this into the card as well if you want to, or even not even cut it. You could run it through with your green embossing mat and then just get the debossed kind of detail of these little dots all the way around the perimeter of your card as well. So multiple different ways of using these gorgeous dies. And then finally we have the lovely word dies. So you have Happy Holidays and Merry Christmas, but then that could be Merry Holidays and Happy Christmas as well. Which is always lovely to be able to mix and match them. And you have a beautiful font, which is it's not too fine, but it's not like a chunky font. It's a nice, perfect sort of size font that will work for different styles of card, which is really nice. And you can also mix and match the die cut word with a stamped word, and then like have the die cut of the stamped word as well. So you can really mix and match the sentiments for these, which is also really lovely. And then you have the bubble for all of them as well, so you could turn these into tiny little shakers and then put the word back on top. You can cut it out of vellum so that it stands out on a background, or you can cut it out of a solid colour of cardstock and then use your 3D foam to raise it up as well. So I think this month's Stamp Club is a really lovely, versatile one with so many different options of creating different Christmas or non-Christmas cards as well. And if you did get last month's one, I do think that would work really nicely with this, so that you could use last month's one to create some really cool backgrounds and then bring in lots of these sort of elements to add different sentiments to it, or mix and match some of these word dies or these word dies with some of the letter or word chunkier word dies from last month's. So you could have the big hello from last month with Christmas on it, so it could be Hello Christmas. All sorts of different ways of mixing and matching them as well, which is fantastic. So those are all the stamps and dies, and I'll be back in a second to show you the samples that I've done as well. So I thought I'd show you my art journal page first, and if you watch my kit videos, you'll know that in like the last, well, it'll be 3 now because you'll have seen the other one before this one, I have been saying that I'm going to use the little paper bags that you now get all the Nuvo goodies in an art journal page. So I finally got round to doing that, and I picked this kind of a colour scheme of a page. This is what it looked like before, because I had I made this book myself, so the signatures are sort of an actual piece of paper that was in there. But so that's kind of what it looked like before, and then I just added in some ripped strips of this paper bag, including this Nuvo Craft Perfect Tonic along the bottom, and then I've just sort of built up the page from there, and I thought it would work nicely with this Christmas rose, and then I've coloured it in colours to sort of go with the page. But I also wanted to show you these circles that I've stamped in the background, so this large like donut one and these circles here as well. They are actually, I don't know if you've noticed, but when you get a Tonic roll of tape, whether it's the tissue tape or the actual red liner tape, they come with a piece of foam on the packaging, and this circle actually fits perfectly inside this circle, so I presume that's a manufacturing kind of process that they saved the foam out of there to use on the packaging of this one, which is fantastic. But save those pieces because you can use them as stamps. I just cut down the cardboard a little bit, and then you can use them as foam stamps to stamp with acrylic paint or inks or anything onto art journal pages or cards as well. And you don't just have to use them like this. I haven't used this particular one on this page, but you can also cut into them. This was using a screw hole punch and also just poking with a ball tool and wiggling it around and cutting into the actual foam with a craft knife as well. And so you can actually create different patterns within these foam rings as well. So if you're anything like me and you get through quite a few rolls of double-sided tape, keep all of these innards and you can actually turn them into tools to use within your crafting, which is always really nice to be able to repurpose some packaging. So that's how the basis of this page started, and then I just built upon it with this month's stamp club, and then going back to that stamp club that they brought back, which was the backgrounds and borders, because it had all of the letters in that I wanted to be able to do sending. And then I've used happiness and joy your way. You do get the word sending in the stamp set, but it's tiny, teeny tiny little word sending, and obviously on a journal page it kind of gets lost. So I wanted to do a big sending and then happiness and joy your way. And I've also used the word happy because this has got happiness and joy in, just to add a few happies across the page as well. And I thought I'd put one above Tonic because happy Tonic. Yeah, and I think that works really nicely, actually, adding these kind of elements to a page, and it's not Christmassy as well. So it's literally just, you know, any sort of occasion kind of a page. Also in the background, I have done some heat embossing with that gorgeous leafy kind of stamp. This was the Pearled Pistachio colour of embossing powder, and it's kind of slightly more of I'd say a translucenty kind of colour, or the mica kind of picks up whatever colour it's on top of. So you can see the colour sort of varies from where it's on the blue to the white, which I love about embossing powders that do that, because it gives you a different kind of look. And here, there's actually one underneath the vellum that's on here as well. And to be able to put this frame into my art journal without it sort of messing up how it closes, I actually trimmed the frame in half. So you've got part of the frame on one page and part on the other, so there's actually a gap in the vellum and the frame down the spine of the book, and that just helps it close much nicer. And then I've added the gorgeous Christmas rose image on there as well, and I've just gone with the grey for the flowers and the green that I used paint wise to stamp those circles in the background for the foliage and stuff. I did use alcohol pens to begin with, I think, or maybe I was using coloured pencils, and then I just added accents of this pearlescent or iridescent paint that I'd used to the leaves as well, and also in the little stamens of the flowers too, and I think it just works really nicely. And you'll notice, yeah, it was last month's video, wasn't it, when I did the art journal page that said art, and then it had the different words underneath it, and the middle word I'd done in this kind of style using that outline of the word. I mainly just did it because I had cut two of the words from that previous backgrounds and borders one, but I needed two N's, and I was too lazy to run one of the words through again to get another N, so I just used the outside of the N, and then to match it up, I then used the outside of the G, and the letters from that stamp club, the backgrounds and borders, were different sizes because they were within different words. So the S and the G are actually from the word hugs, or hug, no, I think it was hugs, yeah, because it has an S in it, and so they're slightly bigger. So it's quite nice that they're the beginning and the end letter of the word, and I just put the last letter onto this page again and snipping the little banner that I'd put it on so that it wouldn't sort of mess up how the book closes. So yeah, I thought I'd show you that one. I thought it worked really nicely for an art journal page as well. So that is an art journal with this month's stamp club, and then I've got 5 cards that I've created with the stamp club as well. So this first one, well, the first 2 actually were just me playing. I just fancied having a play with some of the stamps after I'd finished filming the sped up video for the other 3 cards. So this one is using that beautiful leaf. I just love those leaf stamps. You've probably heard me say that quite a few times. I really love leafy designs because they just work for so many different things. You can do birthdays, you can do Christmas, thank you cards, masculine, feminine, anything. They just work so well, so I really love these kind of ones. And I was experimenting with a bit of embossing. So this one here is embossed, and this is the Serenity blue embossing powder. I think this one is still available. I can't remember if it was an original colour or whether it was released later on, but if I can find it I will link it. And then I was also using some broken china. I think it was broken china. It could have been tumbled glass. Distress oxide as well to stamp the rest of the leaves in the background. And then I was also stamping that gorgeous little dotty kind of splattery stamp as well, but it really does give the look that you've splattered that yourself, but without having the hassle of watering it down to the correct consistency, being able to flick the paintbrush and not get it all over your face, and actually get it on the card. So I really do like that stamp. It's a great one to have. Any of those kind of little splattery ones are brilliant, and they all look different, so even if you have multiple ones already, you know, use them in conjunction with each other, and then, you know, it doesn't look as though you've repeat stamped the same stamp across the card for a splattery effect. You can mix and match together. And then I also used some jewel drops in the background, and they are Sea Breeze and Iceberg Blue, these two. So Sea Breeze was an original colour and Iceberg Blue was relatively recent. Could have been White Wonderland, I'm not sure, but a relatively, well, a much more recent colour than the Sea Breeze. So those two work really nicely together, and you can see how the difference in the colour, the difference in the intensity of the colour, and I think it works really nicely. And then I used that May Your Heart Be Full of Peace and Joy sentiment, and I just used a black pen. My favourite ones to use are the Arteza fine liners. I mention them quite a lot. And I just did a scribbly black border around it, and then just did like some little stitches, little dashes, dots and stuff, just to make it look a little bit more interesting and like draw your eye into the sentiment. And then to colour, I drew a little heart on there because it says May Your Heart be full of peace and joy, and there was quite a big space there, so I just drew a doodly heart again with that same black pen, and then I coloured it in with one of the Tonic pencils. So I was using these on quite a few of the samples actually. These are the two sets of pencils that Tonic have just brought out. They're exactly the same colours as the two original sets of watercolour pencils, but they are actually wax-based pencils. So you've got the same colour tones, which is really nice actually. If you've got used to the watercolour ones, but you want to try normal pencils to colour with as well, it's quite nice to have the same colours, because you know exactly what colours you like for colouring what. So this was actually scuba blue that I used there, and it works really nicely in conjunction with all those colours. So I was using those, and then so that's one of the extra kind of cards I was just playing with. And this was the other one. I had this scrap of cardstock in my scrap box. I think this colour is cornflower blue. I only got this colour recently. I think it's one of the original kind of colours, but you know when they had that sale on with like you buy like a whole rainbow of their cardstock, it was quite a few months ago now, but it had this beautiful blue colour in there, and I've not had this one before, so it was really nice to try that. And I heat embossed this, the main Christmas rose stamp onto this. I think I did it 2 times and then a tiny bit extra, twisting it up the wrong way and stuff, and then I heat embossed it again with that Serenity blue. So you could do it white as well if you wanted, but I quite liked the sort of pastel blue colour of it. And I also did a little bit of heat embossing with that splattery stamp as well. And then I don't know if you can see it that well, I then came in with that scuba blue pencil again and just lightly coloured in some of the flowers and drew a few dots in the background. It doesn't make much of a difference. I think in person you can see it more than you can on the camera, but you know, it just gives something a little bit extra and saves you the time of properly colouring it in, because you've heat embossed it and then just added a little bit of shading. But obviously you don't have to add the shading as well. I think it would also look nice if you took the white pencil from the Brilliantly Vibrant set and like coloured the background, so then the flowers would pop out because they would still be blue and the leaves would be blue, but the background would have a sort of tint of white over the top of it. I think that would look lovely. And then you can see, I don't know what was wrong with my eyes yesterday, but that's wonky. It didn't look wonky when I made it, but it's wonky. It's like a slightly higher gap here than it is there, but anyway, I still think it looks alright. And then to do the sentiment, I wanted to combine the words with one of the stamps. So I've done Happy Christmas from Our Home to Yours. Again, I drew a little black box around the word from Our Home to Yours. To tie the black stamping into the actual die cut, I cut them from white and black and then shadowed the black one just a teeny weeny bit behind, just so that it would sort of stand out more and also, you know, balance that black. And then I felt like the rest of the card was too empty. You could have used an embossing folder in the background. I think that would look lovely as well. But in the end, I just decided to stamp one of those Christmas roses just once, just there as like a focal thing, just in black and white in the background, and then put the banner over the top. And I also just drew a few little black dots or bubbles coming off the flower as well, and I quite like how that one turned out too, other than that bit being wonky. But you just have those days sometimes where you can't stick anything straight, and yesterday was just one of those days. I think, I don't know if I got that straight, but that's why I deliberately do wonky outlines around things, so you can't 100% tell if they're straight or not. But yeah, those are the 2 extra ones. And then these are the 3 that I did in my sped up video. So hopefully tomorrow, or it might be the day after, depending on what other videos I've got going up, these will be in a sped up video to show you how I've done them as well. So this first one, for all of these actually, I was using the Nuvo alcohol pens and the pencils. So I've used both in conjunction with each other to show how you can layer them up. My lovely friend Dawny put me onto this, that you can add coloured pencils over the top of alcohol pen colouring, and it just adds like a little extra depth, or adds lightness if you use the white one as well. So if you don't have a colour that works with the colour that you've used of alcohol pen, for example, the leaves that I've done here, the green that is in the Brilliantly Vibrant, it's too much of a yellow green compared to the sort of minty colour I used on the leaves, so I then brought the white one in and added a bit of white colouring over the top of it as well. So these are a combination of alcohol pens and pencils as well. I'm not brilliant at, you know, this kind of colouring, but I wanted to give the Christmas rose that sort of more realistic look, where if you Google a picture of a Christmas rose, they're kind of more of a white colour with sort of hints of colour on them, whether it's like a pink or a peach, or you know, those kind of colour tones. So I was trying to make it look a little bit realistic with those like striations in the petals. I don't know if I really achieved it, but I quite like how it looks, so you know, that's the main thing. So I used the, I think they're called Aquamarine, set of 3 Nuvo alcohol pens for the leaves, and then the Coral Reef, a couple of the colours out of that, plus the blender pen for the flowers. And I think that turned out quite nicely, that colour combination. I do like this colour combination for Christmas as well, because it's kind of off these traditional colours. So instead of having a pure green, you've gone for like a minty spearmint green, and instead of having a pure red, you've gone for like a corally red. I think it works really nicely together. And then I've used that Merry Christmas sentiment on there as well, and I have actually raised that up on 3D foam, and because you've got the die to cut it out, and I've only used a 1mm high 3D foam, the beveled edge of the die, it covers the 3D foam, so you can't even tell that it's there, but it just gives such a professional look to that word. I've tried in the past to cut out stamped words like this, but it never looks as good as when you have a die to cut it out, because you know, you can just never get that beveled edge to it, which just looks so beautiful. So that is colouring with alcohol pens and a little bit of coloured pencil detail. And then also to finish this off, I added some Silver Rain sequins. They came out in the Dreaming colour trend, which I cannot remember how many years ago that was now, because time goes so quickly. But they have the 3 different sizes in that pot, and on the other 2 cards I'd used some of the Hollow Waves mirror card, and I just felt like these Silver Rain sequins would go absolutely perfectly, because they've got that silver but with a bit of rainbow effect on them as well. And then I also wanted to show you, so this is alcohol pens and pencils, but this one was just coloured pencils, and you can see like the different kind of look. This one is less realistic because of the colours that I've used, but this one is more like a true actual Christmas rose sort of looking design, so you can get a really realistic feel for them, or you can go a little bit more cartoony and abstract. And I also think Christmas roses look nice in bluey minty colours as well. Obviously that kind of clashes a bit more with the leaves, but then you could go for a different look and do grey foliage on it as well to be you know, a different sort of style. So do mix it up with your colour schemes to see you know, what kind of effects you can get, and that's just using coloured pencils on those to try and get like the different pinks and yellows within the petals and stuff. So you can really experiment, which is lovely. Then the next card that I did, the background, I actually heat embossed that little splatter with the Nuvo clear embossing powder. It's not that evident because I then decided to use the like wrinkle-free distress kind of technique with a couple of Aquaflow colours to add colour to this background. And the colours I was using was the True Turquoise and the Clear Water, 2 Aquaflow colours, onto my white media mat that came with my Tim Holtz media mat as well, the glass media mat. But yeah, I really love how that sort of messy inky background then kind of goes with these sort of coloured images too. So the flowers on here, again, I did the same thing, trying to give that sort of striation on the petals. I think I was getting a bit fed up by the time I coloured these ones because I don't think they look quite as good as the other ones. But just using the individual flowers with the pens and the pencils. And then for the holly, I cut loads of, because I wanted all the colours to go together and I'd done alcohol colouring on this, I cut loads of the holly and berries from white cardstock and then used the Nuvo alcohol pens to colour them. And on some of them, I don't know if it's that evident, I did use a little bit of the coloured pencils on there as well. I wasn't really trying to make them that prominent, so yeah, you can't really tell actually. But yeah, that's just using alcohol pens to colour them. So you can give the berries a little bit of depth by adding a darker colour around one side of them, and you can go over the veining detail of the holly leaves with the darker pen as well to give it a different dimension down the centre of those veins. And I've just literally just eyeballed a circle. You could draw a pencil circle on there first, like drawing around a die, or you know, the inside of a sellotape roll or a double-sided tape roll or something to get a circle guide. And then I just decided I wanted the 5 flowers because I love having 3 or 5 flowers. And that's why I love the composition of this one with the 5 flowers on there. And I just put 2 at the top, 3 round the bottom, and then I just slotted in either doubles of holly, because you know, usually a stereotypical sort of sprig of holly is 2 leaves and 3 berries. So I just sort of did that in a couple places and then added in extra holly leaves and berries where I felt it needed it. And then I've just added the Happy Holidays over the top, and I cut one from white and one from hollow waves and layered them together and then put them on a vellum bubble as well, so it kind of just stands out slightly more from the background than it would have done without the vellum. And then again, I've put those Silver Rain sequins on there too, and then I did also do a little bit of stamping in the background with Broken China Distress Oxide over the top of some of this Aquaflow background as well with that little splattery stamp. And then the final one that I did, again, that frame is wonky on there, but you might notice that that frame is a different size to the actual frame die. So the way I did this was, I'll probably leave it in the video, the first time I ran it through the machine too far and cut too much of it, but basically what you do is you stick the 3 dies together, so you have the cutting edge, the dotty one, the cutting edge, and then you run it through part way through your machine, so try and get it to maybe about here. You're running just this part through the machine to cut it, and then you will take your dies off, flip them round, or use the other side of the die, and you can slot the holes back into each other and get the second side of this. You don't want to run it through and cut the whole thing and then decide to cut the other side off, unless you are going to hide these like curved corner pieces of both sides of the same bit, because you will get the holes going all the way across, and then when you try to cut into it you'll have a mismatch of holes here, or you might have a part hole and stuff. So it's much better to partially cut one side and then partially cut the other side as well. But you can do it to make a smaller frame for your smaller cards if you'd rather, but that you can see there, that completely covers it. So that big frame would fit completely over the whole thing, but you can actually make it smaller so it's more of like a frame within the centre of the card as well. So it's a nice versatile sort of frame. You can change the size of it. And then for this one I used the Pearled Pistachio, yes that is what it's called, Pearled Pistachio embossing powder, which is a really lovely sort of sage greeny kind of colour with a pearlescent finish to it. It's a really subtle sort of pearlescence, but really pretty, all over the background. And then a little bit of, again, bringing in those same alcohol pens to do some little circles in there, colouring the holly and the berries with the same alcohol pens as well to get a same sort of colour theme. And I also brought in the, I can't think what the colour set is called, maybe that's called Aquamarine and the other one's called something else. Anyway, they'll be linked below, the 3 different sets of Tonic alcohol pens that I used, but I brought that set in because it was a similar colour to the Aquaflows I'd used in the background of this one, to colour the frame on this one. So I've then got that sort of aqua blue kind of colour, the minty colour and the corally colour across all 3 of these cards, just because they're in the same video. I tried to sort of match the colour scheme across them. And then again I have added a little accent or like shadow behind that sentiment of the Hollow Waves cardstock. Really subtle, but in person you can see it, and also added the Silver Rain sequins on there as well to sort of go with that Hollow Waves shadow that I've done on the sentiment. So I hope you've enjoyed this up close video looking at Tonic Stamp Club number 12, which is the Christmas Rose stamp and die set. I really did enjoy this one. I know I do say it quite a lot with the stamp clubs. I'm like, oh, this is my favourite, or you know, really enjoyed it, but I'm sure they keep just getting better and better with so much versatility within them. You know, especially this one can be Christmas, or it doesn't have to be Christmas as well. I mean, this one here, I know it's got holly in it and stuff, but the colour scheme that I've used on it doesn't look particularly Christmas. I know it is a Christmas colour scheme, but recently, because I've been mixing and matching Christmas cards, normal cards, Christmas cards, normal cards, I kind of get oblivious to when I'm actually making a Christmas card now. And I'd made all of these, and then I was sitting on the sofa and I was like, oh yeah, I did make Christmas cards today. But because I hadn't been using like a traditional you know, red and green kind of colour scheme, and it was more floral and stuff, I didn't really feel like I was making Christmas cards. So this might be quite a nice set for you to have if you're getting fed up of Christmas cards and you want to feel like you're not making them, but you'd still have some for your stash as well. I think this is quite a nice set to have. So I hope you enjoyed the ideas that I've shown you. Obviously art journaling ideas you can transfer onto cards as well, or vice versa, depending if you're just a card maker or you like doing a bit of art journaling. And yeah, hopefully I've just given you a few different ways you might want to use this stamp and die set, or something else you have in your stash already as well. If you're interested in this month's stamp club, I'll leave the links below the video, and they are affiliate links as well. So I really do appreciate when you use them, and I know a lot of you message me or write a comment as well and say that you've used them, and I really appreciate that too. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!